The Family Resource Center invite you to join us Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM for our weekly show called Rethink Parenting, where we share practical and positive parenting information to support happy, healthy family life. We'll share how to handle day-to-day issues. We'll address common challenges with parenting, such as how to manage misbehavior, supporting our teens through growing up, managing co-parenting dynamics, and how to take care of ourselves and manage our own stressors. Family Resource Center, committed to building people, building families. Tune in Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM. Find us at frc.gov.ky or call us on 949-0006. Submit your questions and concerns regarding parenting to us, and we'll share them on air. Join us Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. for our weekly show called Rethink Parenting.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charmaine Miller, and I am part of the Family Resource Center. We are here today on our fourth Rethink Parenting radio segment. Very excited to be launching this initiative. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of our team members join in the conversation, as well as our sister agencies previously who were joining us last week to talk about the impact that substance abuse has on parenting. And today we're here to talk about co-parenting. So I'm very excited to have one of our seasoned parenting practitioners with us today. His name is Andrae Bailey. Andrae, could you please introduce yourself to the listeners?
Good evening, listeners. Yes, we are definitely happy to be here today to talk to you parents about co-parenting. We are hoping that this information will give you some clarity, as well as it will prompt you to be a part of our programming here at the Family Resource Center.
Absolutely, Andrae. And to give everyone some history, we really started off delivering this program. It really came out from a need, right? So for those that may not know, fun fact or interesting fact actually, is that the divorce rate in Cayman is pretty high for it to be such a small island. And so there are multiple reasons for that, but we started as an agency about 4 or 5 years ago, getting a lot of referrals or queries about co-parenting and what type of programs we offer here at the Family Resource Center for parents who are divorced or separated or are in the process of divorcing. And so through just multiple queries and to actually meet the emerging needs of families here within the Cayman Islands, the co-parenting program was born, right? We've been doing this program for quite some time now and deliver about 3 to 4 workshops for the year, offered free, obviously, because we are part of the Cayman Islands government. And so the workshop has been very empowering for many of those participants that have attended. Andrae has been leading these workshops for the past 1.5 years, and so we're very privileged to have him here on board. So let's get right into it, listeners. For those who may not know, Andrae, what exactly is co-parenting?
Well, co-parenting, for a simple, easy definition, or another way to look on it, one could call it shared parenting. And it really is a way for divorced or separated or even never married parents who, to approach the challenges of raising children together, even though they are not living together anymore or they do not maintain an intimate relationship with each other. So it is really working with the other parent. When we think about the prefix from the expression co-parenting, we're really talking about different things which we'll discuss later on, talking about collaborating and cooperating and working together and being a team.
Right.
So even though parents are no longer together, even though parents are no longer in an intimate relationship with each other, they now have to find a way to navigate the challenging space of raising the children while being separated. And that's what co-parenting is.
Right. And that is certainly a very challenging journey, that a lot of parents have to face. Funny story. The first program that we launched about 5 years ago, co-parenting is a new term. Right. And so I was responsible for that first program. And, we had families that signed up or couples that signed up and whatnot. On session 1 of the program, we had individuals that pretty much introduced themselves, and then we saw a couple there. So they proceeded to introduce themselves in a group like how we would generally do. Hi, my name is such and such, and I'm hoping to learn X, Y, and Z from this. And so there was a couple who proceeded to say, we just wanted to be on the same page about co-parent, when it comes to parenting our children. So they were actually not divorced or separated. They're just, a couple that want to pretty much learn parenting tools because they found themselves oftentimes just not conveying the same message to their children, and that was something to laugh about. And they're kind of like, oh dear, we're totally in the wrong group, right? So
I mean that's interesting. I mean, the absolute truth is that through our co-parenting program, we want parents to be at that point,
right?
Even though they're not together, to be at the point to say, then we need to do more on the parenting pieces to ensure that our children are getting the best.
Yes.
And that we are actually operating in the best interest of the children, even though we're not in an intimate relationship anymore. So for those parents, yes, they might have needed some parenting tips, but they were definitely on the right path towards what co-parenting is and what healthy co-parenting looks like.
Right. So key word when we talk about co-parenting for our listeners, you have to be separated or divorced, right? And parenting that same child.
Correct.
Right? So you use the word shared parenting.
Shared parenting. Okay. And some persons might call it that, depending on where you read or listening to.
Right.
They might use the term shared parenting.
Okay.
And it's really an easy way to understand what co-parenting is.
Okay. All right. So now that we're clear on definition and what it looks like, parents who are co-parenting have quite a challenge in front of them from the time of separation, right? There's that emotional aspect of it in terms of, grieving that intimate relationship that you just mentioned. And so there's that loss aspect of it, right? So there's the emotional toll that separation can have on you. And obviously there's parenting. There's now, how do I proceed as an individual, as a person, to parent this child as a single parent, but also recognize that I have to have a shared relationship with this co-parent, right? So what do parents report being the main challenges for you?
Okay, well, with our co-parenting program, one of the early things that we say to our clients when they come in, our parents, is that we allow them to recognize that before everything, they were individuals. A man and a woman, they met, they got married, or they got in a relationship. And even if it's common law, they became man and wife, right? So they were in this intimate relationship. Then children got involved, children got involved. They became parents, mother and father. The relationship ended. They got separated or a divorce. The man and wife aspect of them no longer exists in that relationship, but the parental part remains. So for a lot of the parents, what the challenge has been is separating the personal from the parental. And our co-parenting program, as we go through, helps parents to recognize that there is a difference between the parental aspect of who you are to your children and the personal aspects of who you are in relation to the co-parent. When those lines get blurred, we have difficulty and high conflict within the co-parenting relationship. So one of the challenges that we have seen over time as we go through our co-parenting program is the separation of personal from parental.
Yeah.
And once parents are able to start with awareness, then we can start working towards how do we navigate that space.
Yeah, and that is such a powerful sentence that you just said, separating personal from parental, because my personal feelings maybe, they may be very negative towards my ex-partner or my now child's father or my co-parent, right? So I may have some really negative feelings about this person, but I also have a parental responsibility and a parental role. So I can assume that it takes quite a bit of time, right? And effort.
Yes.
Yeah, and effort for that to actually take place. And so your groups must be very interactive, huh?
They are interactive.
Tell us a little bit about that, Andrae.
Well, we for our co-parenting program, we usually have maximum 10 persons to a group. So it's a closed group situation where persons sign up to be a part of the co-parenting group or the family transitions, whatever group we are running. Maximum 10 persons, and it's a mixture of male and female. I'll tell you, Charmaine, that we have seen over time that we have a lot of males attending the co-parenting program as opposed to many of the other parenting programs that we offer here. So during the session, it's not a processing group so much where persons are talking about their feelings for the whole time and crying and so on. We are really giving psychoeducation towards co-parenting.
Right.
And so it's an interactive group. Current program that we're doing, there's a workbook.
Okay.
And there's several activities in those workbooks. We also do icebreakers at the beginning of session.
Right.
And we allow parents to feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
And in being comfortable, they are now sharing. And because of the sharing that takes place, we get what we call the power of the group dynamic happening,
Right,
where
right.
a person could share what's happening with them, and that might be encouraging to someone else. And we have seen it over time and time again, where during the group process, persons form new friendships and they're able to support each other while coming to group by sharing their experiences and things that they have tried for themselves, and other persons in the group hear and try these things and are successful. A lot of times we've seen success simply based on what somebody else in the group had said.
Okay. So interesting. Really, really interesting stuff. I have a question though. What do I have to be legally separated to be a part of this group? How does that work? Like if I'm contemplating, we are split, or this person is still living in the house with me and whatnot. Like, what does that look like if we're in different phases of that journey?
Right. You do not have to be legally separated to be a part of a group. As a matter of fact, we have had persons who their partners, their co-parents are still living in the household. Most times in a separate room. We have seen that situation on several occasions. And they still are accessing group. The information is there. And we have also seen situations where persons come in for co-parenting, but they don't want to co-parent in the end. Okay. They want the opportunity to work on their relationship. And we might make a referral out to the counseling center for them to access marital counseling.
Okay.
Because sometimes persons are not sure what they really want in this phase of their relationship, and we are able to assist and provide resources towards that. Okay. So no, you do not have to be legally separated to access the group. It's free of cost, and it's for everyone on island who legally lives here to access the group and get the information. And the truth is that through the different components of the co-parenting program itself, it also improves the parent-child relationship. Okay. So even with the co-parent, the parenting pieces of the program coming into play also helps with the household composition, whatever that looks like for you at the moment.
So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
All around.
All around. Now, another question that's coming in for us, thank you so much for our listeners out there. How is the co-parenting program different to mediation?
Okay. With the co-parenting program, we are providing parents with the skills. We are building their toolbox to handle some of the difficulties that surround the co-parenting relationship. Like we said earlier, that separation of personal and parental can cause a lot of emotional toll on parents. Parents might experience some unpleasant emotions. Persons might have unresolved issues in that relationship, and they need the tools to help them to navigate this new space. Let us also recognize that with co-parenting, it's new for the children too.
Right.
So not only is it new for the parents, and I would say to parents that they have never been co-parents before, especially the ones who are doing it for the first time. So you have been a woman all your life, or you've been a man all your life. You've been in a relationship, but you have never been in a relationship where you are now a co-parent.
Yeah.
So it's a new phase for everybody all together.
That is such, I have to pause you there because that is so enlightening. I guess that's the word I could use, because what it really speaks to is having some grace on yourself.
Correct.
And being empathic and being kind to yourself. Like you said, you've never been a co-parent before. So that means that you're going to make mistakes, right? And nobody has taught you. This is something new. So in the same way that your kids are experiencing the newness of it.
Yes.
I know that's not a word, guys, but so are you.
It's fine, right.
So I'm so glad we have you here. Indeed, the expert here at the Family Resource Center when it comes to co-parenting. So privileged. What an asset to have Andrae on today's show. Folks, we are going to take a break. Thank you guys so much. You're here with Charmaine Miller and Andrae Bailey from the Family Resource Center. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The Family Resource Center invite you to join us Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM for our weekly show called Rethink Parenting. where we share practical and positive parenting information to support happy, healthy family life. We'll share how to handle day-to-day issues. We'll address common challenges with parenting, such as how to manage misbehavior, supporting our teens through growing up, managing co-parenting dynamics, and how to take care of ourselves and manage our own stressors. Family Resource Center, committed to building people, building families. Tune in Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM. Find us at frc.gov.ky or call us on 949-0006. Submit your questions and concerns regarding parenting to us, and we'll share them on air. Join us Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. for our weekly show called Rethink Parenting.
Welcome back, listeners of our Rethink Parenting segment, brought to you here by the Family Resource Center. We are so happy to have this radio segment on Bobo 89.1, and thank you so much to our listeners who have been sending forward questions to us. Very privileged to have Mr. Andrae Bailey here, parenting practitioner, and I have given him a new title as our co-parenting expert at the Family Resource Center. He's been dropping a lot of knowledge here with us today, so thank you so much, Andrae. My name is Charmaine Miller, and I'm also part of the wonderful team at the Family Resource Center. So, Andrae, I know we didn't finish up our previous question, but I want, for those listeners, right, what is the difference between our co-parenting program and mediation?
Right. So we talk about the program and how it is providing those tools for the parents. Mediation, well, is really an intervention in a dispute in order to resolve that dispute. So co-parents do have conflict and they do have disputes in terms of some of the decisions that they need to make in relation to the child or children from their union. Okay. And sometimes parents are unable to make those decisions on their own. Whether I might want something or my partner might want something, and we're butting heads to get a resolution for that particular challenge or conflict that we're having. Mediation helps with helping with that resolution. Okay. So the conflict exists, and even if the conflict continues, mediation helps to make a determination about a particular dispute that one might have. So we do, within our co-parenting program too, we invite mediators to come in and they may speak to our parents about what mediation is and the services that are available here on island. And they could ask questions of the mediator to get some guidance on issues that they might have. And we have also, within the Family Resource Center, worked with mediators as part of our legal befriending clinic and otherwise who come in to help parents through a particular dispute that they may be having, giving them some guidance. As a matter of fact, Charmaine, with our co-parenting program, part of it in week 5, we teach about the parenting plan. Okay. And the parenting plan is one tool that parents can use to help to get some resolution for any dispute that they may have in relation to their children. So the parenting plan breaks down into different sections, and it helps parents to put on paper. Of course, you have the digital version, but to put on paper what it looks like for their relationship. What does pick up and drop offs look like? What does holidays and special occasions look like? Mother's Day and Father's Day, where is the child during those periods, during the Christmas periods? In terms of information sharing, who shares the information? What does the sharing look like? The day-to-day decisions or the major decisions or things like aftercare or things like taking a trip, going on vacation, things like even religious observances. What do these things look like? And or co-parenting plan and us going through the plan help parents to resolve some of those decisions and the issues that they might have.
And it anticipates challenges that you may not have thought about because this is a new journey for you, right? So the parenting plan, quite a thorough document.
It is a thorough document. It's a thorough program. Yeah. And we are definitely happy. As a matter of fact, the program that we're using now is the Family Transitions, which is part of the collection of Triple P programs. Triple P is that program that evolved from a program of clinical research, over 30 years of research. And we have within that gamut of programs from the Triple P, the Family Transition Program, which it extends the tradition of using the evidence-based parenting programs for this. Right. So what it does, it really looks at how it is relevant to all parents, how to develop a program, to develop an approach to ensuring that at the end of the day, the best interests of the children are taken into account while the parents are also taken care of.
Right.
So we are holistic in the approach to co-parenting.
Right.
The parents as individuals and the children and others. I'll tell you that there are others outside of the family. There's a section that we talk about who else is involved. And outside of the immediate family, meaning the mother, father, child, or children, there are other persons who are also affected by this co-parenting relationship. And we're looking at grandparents. We're looking at aunts and uncles. We're looking at cousins and family friends, even church families and neighbors. Several persons are affected by the co-parenting relationship, especially for one that is high conflict or one that's not healthy.
Right.
So we look at the ecosystem of all the persons involved. And ensure that actions taken are to the best interest of the children so that the children could thrive in this co-parenting relationship.
That sounds so, like you said, just holistic and comprehensive. It's covering everything. And I think, you mentioned the Triple P program. Folks, that is one of the most effective, Triple P, which stands for Positive Parenting Program, is one of the most effective parenting programs in the world, right? And Andrae spoke to the fact that it's carrying over 30 years of research. So you recognize here that we are using quality to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our families here locally. So let's talk a little bit about, healthy versus unhealthy. Andrae, what would be described as a healthy co-parenting relationship? And on the flip side, what is an unhealthy one?
All right. Within our co-parenting program, we say to our parents that there are three major components of co-parenting: communication, decision-making, and sharing time or time sharing.
Okay.
Yes? So you want to have proper and healthy communication between co-parents and children, parent-child relationship, as well as the parent-parent relationship. Decision making happens at the micro and the macro level, where you are making this day-to-day decisions as well as you're making long-term decisions or serious decisions like health and schooling and so on. So joint decision making is a big part of co-parenting. And there's also the time sharing aspect of it. The term says co-parenting, and as again we speak about you sharing the parental responsibility. So time sharing is a part of it. There are times when the child might be with the mom. There are times when the child might be with the dad. So there is a partnership that takes place in that regard. When those three components are working for the relationship as it is, without having major conflict, and it happens, if not seamlessly, it happens smooth enough.
Right.
Then we tend to classify that as a healthy co-parenting relationship. And this means that there is ongoing communication between the separated or divorced parents. This means that there is ongoing joint decision-making about the child's needs and interests. Even though these needs and interests change, as the child changes through the different ages and stages, clearly the decisions that go with that also needs to change.
Right.
This looks like putting the child's best interest first. We want to be doing that. We want to be cooperating with the co-parent. We want to be talking ahead of time and planning so as to maintain the peace and to maintain a level of cohesion between the co-parents. We want to be showing up for the children. Healthy co-parenting looks like allowing the child to love both parents.
Right.
So often we have seen a situation where one parent or the other, because of the lingering feelings that they might have and might be unresolved and the unpleasant emotions they would have experienced because of the co-parenting relationship, might want to bias the child in some way or another. But with co-parenting and healthy co-parenting, which is what we're talking about, this involves allowing the child the freedom to love both parents.
Absolutely.
So not seeing the other parent on the road and the child is stuck in the middle, not knowing if they should hug mommy or hug daddy, not wanting to say anything because they're not sure how the other parent might feel. And the things that have been said in the home when the other parent is not there might cause the child to be tentative around their own parent.
Absolutely.
So healthy co-parent looks like allowing the child to love both parents. Healthy co-parenting is future driven. So it's about growing the child, raising him or her to be the best adult that he or she could be.
Right.
On the flip side, then, Unhealthy co-parenting looks at focusing on the past or focusing on the history. So parents often dwell in the past, dwell in the history, and the conflict continues into the present day because they're not letting go of whatever hurt or whatever bad blood, we call it, happened in the relationship. So that is an unhealthy situation. Unhealthy co-parenting is a situation of getting your emotional needs met as opposed to meeting the needs of the child. So when one parent spites another child, when one parent spites on the other parent to meet their own emotional needs, that is not a healthy situation. The child is suffering, the person doing the spiting is suffering, and the person who is spited is also suffering. So no one is winning. No one is benefiting from that situation. And we speak about taking poison and hoping it will hurt the other person. It doesn't work like that. If you are harboring the spite and playing tit for tat in that relationship, you are also maintaining the resentment, and that's not healthy for you as an individual. So holding on to unresolved issues or holding on to grudges from the relationship and the breakdown in that union is not a healthy situation. Using the child as a messenger in the relationship, sending the messages, mommy said this or daddy said this, sending the messages through children, or using the children as our counselors and our confidants. Some persons, as opposed to seeking a healthy outlet for dealing with whatever issues that might be having, they turn to their children. So they parentify the child. And they use the child as a counselor, as a confidant, as opposed to having a girlfriend or a bro friend who they could speak to, or even a professional, like a counselor, a therapist of some kind, a life coach to help you through the difficult situation. Unhealthy co-parenting is quarreling or yelling or fighting physically in the presence of the child. We have seen and heard and so many situations of parents being physical with each other in the presence of the children. Fighting, breaking things, slamming doors, throwing things outside. We have seen the bad side of it. We have seen videos. There are parents who have brought videos to group of and individual sessions of them engaging in some high-level conflict with the parent, and the child is right there in the presence of the child.
Well, let me interrupt you out of curiosity. What's the point of bringing the videos?
Well,
to group?
they're saying it's evidence that it's not me, it's the co-parent. So we go into an instant situation of blaming the co-parent as opposed to taking any form of responsibility for what is happening. Because it takes two to quarrel.
Absolutely.
It does take two for conflict. So bringing the video to a group was like, see, evidence.
They're still caught up in that past.
Still caught up in the past. Which is not healthy co-parenting. Unhealthy co-parenting is not about favoritism. It's not about allowing the child to choose you above the other parent and playing trying to outdo the other parent. Yes.
Good cop versus bad cop kind of dynamic.
And who is a better parent, who loves you more, buying the affection of the child that's not what healthy co-parenting is.
Well, you've said so much, Andrae, and I've even taken notes because I think that is it's just such valuable information. So think about this, folks, as you're listening, right? Think about a checklist. So is my relationship or is my co-parenting relationship healthy? Here are some things that can make it healthy based on what Andre's just said, right? Am I able to make joint decisions? Is the responsibility shared? Are we being child-centered? Are we focusing right now on the child and communicating smoothly, right? Are we showing up for the child when needed, even though it's not my day, right? And let's say something special is happening for that child. Are we showing up for them? Are we allowing, and this was something really interesting that Andrae said, are we allowing the child to love both of us? And most importantly, are we being future driven? Are we doing everything to ensure that this child and our relationship is strong and it's a good foundation for our joint child, right? So if your answer is yes to all of those, then, you're on the right path.
Great.
Absolutely. Right? If you're having some concerns, Andrae mentioned some really good pointers around how to identify whether my relationship is unhealthy. Are you focused on the past? Is there a lot of quarreling happening? Is there fighting happening in front of that child? Are you kind of like instigating more favoritism? Is there poor boundaries? Are you using your child as a confidant? And sometimes we see that as, I want my child to be my best friend kind of thing. But that's not your child's job, right? Or your job either. Your child is going to have a lot of friends. Your child's only going to have one or two parents, right? In this case, because we're promoting co-parenting, that's two parents, right? So if you're doing those things and you're not being child-centered, you're still stuck on a lot of the unresolved issues and holding grudges, then those are clearly red flags for unhealthy co-parenting, and you should be signing up for this program,
Correct.
right, to help you. So folks, we're going to take another break. Thank you so much for listening. This is Charmaine Miller and Mr. Andrae Bailey from the Family Resource Center. We will be right back.
The Family Resource Center invite you to join us Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM for our weekly show called Rethink Parenting, where we share practical and positive parenting information to support happy, healthy family life. We'll share how to handle day-to-day issues. We'll address common challenges with parenting, such as how to manage misbehavior, supporting our teens through growing up, managing co-parenting dynamics, and how to take care of ourselves and manage our own stressors. Family Resource Center, committed to building people, building families. Tune in Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM. Find us at frc.gov.ky or call us on 949-0006. Submit your questions and concerns regarding parenting to us, and we'll share them on air. Join us Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. for our weekly show called Rethink Parenting.
Welcome back, Rethink Parents. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Charmaine Miller. I work at the Family Resource Center, and I have the privilege this evening to be joined by our parenting practitioner, Mr. Andrae Bailey, who is the lead staff member responsible for the delivery of our co-parenting programs here at the Family Resource Center. We've had quite an insightful and educational session thus far, and we'll just keep going. We recently talked about what makes a healthy co-parenting relationship and what makes it unhealthy. We've received a question from our listeners. What about abuse? What if my partner or my co-parent is being abusive and that's the reason why I left the relationship? How can she get some help?
Well, let's start by saying that abuse goes both ways.
So glad you said that.
Yes, of course. So we have, as I said earlier, a lot of males who access the co-parenting program, and it's an equal amount of male and female because they're all co-parenting relationships. Right. Yes. So yes, there was a female caller, messenger who sent the query, but really all our clients, abuse happened both ways, and we want to acknowledge that and not belittle the plight of men.
Yeah. Well, it seems like in this question, I don't know, I don't want to assume, but it seems like the abuser is a female.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, it happens both ways. First of all, with the program, the recommendation is not for both parents to be in group at the same time.
Right.
So what we have done here is to speak with both parties, both parents, to say one might be accessing group now, the next one could wait for the next cohort to access group then. Okay. Or if it is a court situation where they're unable to wait and they're going back to court because they have a pending date or something, we might service one of those parties individually. Okay. So one might access the benefit of group and the other person gets serviced on an individual basis.
So they don't have to be in the same room at the same time.
At the same time, no.
Because that could jeopidize their safety too, right?
And
whoever it is.
That's so true. So we do not promote, if the parents are having that high conflict situation where they can't be in the room with each other without the conflict happening, then we separate them. One in group, one in not, or one in this group, one in the next cohort. Parents do appreciate it. Because they don't want to be in the room with their co-parents sometimes. But then there are those parents who are, we're fine. We could be in a group together and we're trying to. So they're at that phase. We recognize that it's a continuum.
Absolutely.
Persons are at different phases of their co-parenting journey.
Absolutely.
And we want them to get to what we call cooperative colleagues. But sometimes you're just not at that place. So they're still fiery foes with each other.
Fiery foes, cooperative colleagues. That makes so much sense. Because that's how it feels like at the beginning, right? You're just fighting and quarreling all the time and trying to kind of like navigate this new path that you're in. And the goal is to eventually get to a place where we can co-parent, right?
And we do set goals with everyone. Wow. As you said, that goal, it triggered a memory of it. That we do, each co-parent coming in, they would have their individual goal.
Right.
What is it that you are working on? What is it that you'd like to achieve by attending group? Because it's not just attendance, it's with purpose. Right. All our programs are with purpose. So persons will have their goals and we try to work with them through that goals. The important thing with the Triple P program that we now do is that after 5 weeks of group, there is 2 weeks of telephone consultation.
Okay.
And what this does is to give the parents an opportunity to practice some of those strategies that we have discussed and gone through during the group session. And then the parenting practitioners are able to call and to check in on them to see how well this is going, how is the practicing of the skill happening, and to support them during those 2 weeks.
That is so good because it's more individualized.
Yes.
Right?
At that point, it becomes very individualized. We are talking about you and your children specifically and your specific co-parenting relationship and giving you the support on an individual basis.
What about confidentiality, Andre? I mean, we live on a very small island. You can say that, we know each other. A lot of people know one another, obviously. What if my concern is, I'm hearing everything. It sounds great, but I don't want others to know my business. I'm concerned about being in a group.
All right. We establish from signing up for the program confidentiality. That is something that we absolutely uphold here within the department. Confidentiality is at its highest. So we do operate from that confidential space. The interesting thing is that everybody wants the same thing. So persons automatically are comforted knowing that another person in the room also wants their business to be kept private. So within group, we explain at the top of the group, we have group rules, and confidentiality is definitely one of those. But for persons who absolutely are uncomfortable for that confidentiality reason, or it might be for another medical or mental health reason, they cannot be in group, we service them as best as we can on an individual basis. Right.
But like you said, there's a lot of power to group, and recognizing that, I'm not alone in this journey. There are others that are experiencing the same thing. And while it's not a process group and we're talking about, our very intimate concerns, we can all learn from each other.
And
right?
we do ask parents not to share or overshare in group. So yes, you might give an example or you might share from your personal experience, but we don't call names, we don't take photographs, we don't ask persons to share their personal detail.
Absolutely.
Be as comfortable as you are.
Absolutely, and that's so important. So Andre, what strategies have you found to be most effective when it comes to maintaining a healthy co-parenting relationships?
I've found over the time doing co-parenting that all behaviors begin with a level of awareness.
Okay.
Change starts with awareness.
Right.
And we do some of that awareness work within our group as well, just for parents to become conscious of who they are and where they are in their life in this co-parenting relationship at this moment. We might give them a self-assessment questionnaire to complete and a self-care assessment to complete as well, to help them with that mindfulness piece and that self-awareness piece.
Okay.
And when parents are operating from that space, we introduce the CBT model, cognitive behavior therapy, within the group space, allowing persons again to recognize that their thoughts impact their feelings, and their feelings will impact and influence their subsequent actions.
Right.
And I've found over time that when parents begin to operate from this place, that it shifts something within how they relate to themselves, how they relate to their children, and how they relate to the co-parent.
Absolutely.
A lot of parents are triggered at something that the co-parent does coming from the history of the relationship, and it continues even within the co-parenting space. And that action or that behavior by the co-parent rubs them the wrong way.
Right.
And it causes the conflict to continue. But when they begin to operate from a place of control, when they begin to practice that mindfulness and that self-awareness, it allows them to better cope with the unpleasant emotions and even the predictable behavior of the co-parent. So that first piece of being self-aware helps a lot. We have also found the strategy of parents learning how to develop, establish, and maintain boundaries has also been helpful throughout the co-parenting journey. Again, we cannot control the behavior of the co-parent,
right,
but we can, of course, develop and establish our own boundaries and then maintain those boundaries so as to not be flustered or triggered by the behavior of the the co-parent. So definitely developing and establishing and maintaining those boundaries is one strategy that has worked for the co-parenting program over time. We have also done conflict management, teaching parents how to manage the conflict that might arise with the co-parent. So we teach parents how to recognize that there are underlying conflict and there is unexpressed conflict, and in having the conflict expressed, there is an approach that one might take. They might avoid the situation, they might compete in that situation, they might choose to accommodate the situation, or they might collaborate, depending if they're being assertive or not, or if they're being cooperative or not. And we explain to our parents that dependent on the response to the conflict, there is an outcome to this conflict situation.
Absolutely.
The conflict is either resolved, or the conflict escalates when it's not managed properly, or the conflict is managed. So there might not be a resolution in the immediate term, but there is some sort of management that takes place. So teaching parents how to manage conflict and how to respond to, for example, an angry parent is another strategy that has helped co-parents over time. So they've found that by being self-aware, by setting boundaries, by managing conflict in a healthy way, it reduces the unhealthy conflict and the high conflict that happens between them. And then there is a development in the relationship between both parents. And then we've had several parents who report to say, this week we had a good conversation, there were no conflicts, and or this week I really practiced using that CBT approach that we discussed last week, and it empowers them to operate from a place of control within the co-parenting space.
Wow. And all of that, everything that you've just said really speaks to, one key word that comes up for me, which is empowerment.
Yes.
It's the idea that you're empowering our co-parents to take control, to take charge of the situation. And that's what empowerment feels, because a lot of the times they're starting off, when you get to a place, parents, where you recognize that, I need some help. I can't do this by myself. There's a certain degree of vulnerability there, right? And so if we're coming in and we're trying to support you, we're really empowering you. We're empowering you with tools. We're empowering you with knowledge, and knowledge is power. So now that you know that, Andrae said, with awareness comes change.
Yes.
If you know that when your co-parent says this is how you normally respond, then this co-parenting program is going to teach you, okay, how do I communicate better? How do I set my boundaries so that I'm not triggered? How do I recognize that behavior is making me think this about this person, and it's making me act in an impulsive or mean way, like whatever the case may be, right? So it's really, really interesting to hear that all of this really boils down to us, to empowerment, to us trying to make sure that you are equipped with tools and strategies to make you the better co-parent version of yourself that you can be, right?
For sure.
So that's really, really neat, Andrae. What often, I know you've talked about the things that parents really take away from this, right? So what often gets in the way for parents implementing these valuable strategies that they learn?
There are things that could get in the way, and we said, we look at it, we say, what prevents you from having a successful co-parenting relationship? And in our program, we talk about barriers to healthy co-parenting. And during this lesson, we ask parents to list them, and you will be surprised to see the amount of things that persons are able to come up with, because it's so unique to each individual. Yes, there are some things that are commonplace.
Right.
But it's unique because each relationship is different.
So but what are strain, barriers?
Strain on the parents' personal relationship could be a barrier, because they've lost trust in that relationship, and that lack of trust, or that loss of trust, puts a strain on the relationship. And that could be a barrier to a successful co-parenting relationship. Something like negative remarks about the other co-parent. Sometimes persons criticize each other, or they say things that are belittling and minimizing. That can cause, those negative remarks could be a barrier to the co-parenting success.
Or even like those subtle remarks.
Yes.
Just kind of like they're just taking a stab at you, but it's just not as blatant and obvious. Right, so those things I'm sure can be very triggering.
Right, those put downs.
Exactly.
We call it the put downs.
Okay, put downs.
Yes. Right. Using the child to punish the parent is something that causes there to be a breakdown in the relationship, because both parents, we assume, love the child equally. Yes, there is that parental bond that goes with your child.
Right.
And when one parent is weaponizing the situation, it caused there to be a breakdown, a further breakdown in the co-parenting relationship.
Yeah.
Not parental alienation, where one parent is not being allowed to have access to the child as much as he or she would want, again, could impact the success of the relationship. An uncooperative co-parent. So a co-parent will try to check out emotionally. And the truth is sometimes it's unhealthy coping mechanism that he or she is using.
Yeah.
So in order to not be triggered by the co-parent, they emotionally check out of that relationship.
Right.
And by checking out, that makes them uncooperative in the situation.
Right.
And in that, it again negatively impacts the success rate of that co-parenting relationship. And unwillingness to compromise. Some parents are headstrong and hard-headed about one thing, and they start using the language "my child," and they're saying this is my child and my child. But the truth is, it took both of you to make that child. Exactly. So when we use that language, "my child," it becomes a possessive type thing, and it could impact the positive success.
Right.
I often say to parents too that you are not a single parent, but you are a single co-parent. And when parents begin to recognize this to be true, if that is the truth of their situation, that a single parent is not there, that person is gone completely from the life of the child. They're nowhere to be found. Or, God forbid, they might have passed away or something. You become a single parent. There's no one else.
Yep.
But in the co-parenting relationship, even if it's not a healthy one yet, you are not a single parent, you're a single co-parent.
Right.
And there are times when the child might be at the other parent's house. There are times when the other parent might contribute to something, no matter how small it is. There is someone who is there who cares for and has a level of responsibility for your child or children. So yes, you feel like you're doing it alone, but the truth is there's this other parent there. And if it is that there is the decision making, which is joint, that is taking place, if it is that the communication is healthy that we've spoken about earlier, and if it is that the time sharing, the other component of co-parenting is taking place, then it shouldn't feel like a single parent situation, because there's a co-parent that gives you some time. You get some time back. I mean, parents do feel guilty when their children might go to the other parent. The truth is, it affords you the time to find you again.
Yeah,
it
that's
affords
true.
you that time to do something for you.
Right.
Sometimes you don't.
Self-care.
Some self-care. You might be the primary parent.
I need to be a co-parent. No, I'm kidding.
No, but sometimes you are the primary parent and you have everything. You have the morning routines. You have the hassle of the bedtime routine. You have to prepare dinner, get them ready for school. You have them all the time picking up, dropping off, ensuring that the homework is done, attending the PTA meetings, all the things that at school. It's just you constantly over and over, all the problematic behaviors that they might face during the day, including walking the dog. Like there's so much that's happening. Yes? But with a co-parenting relationship, if it's even one weekend for the month, the child might go to the parent. Or if it's something. Or they might be living overseas and they see them for 2 days. They come to visit and they might have them for 2 days. You're not a single parent, you're a single co-parent.
Right.
And the better it is at that co-parenting relationship is the less it might feel on an individual, because that's being shared between the parents.
Absolutely. And, I think it's just really interesting because you've spoken to the benefits of it.
Yes.
Even though sometimes at first when you become a co-parent, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
And that's how it's going to be a little. It's going to be grim, for you. And these kind of programs really help become a source of support and empowerment for you. Andrae used the word weaponized, and I wrote that down because I think it's so important to understand how your behavior as an adult can impact your child.
Definitely.
And we haven't talked about the impact on your child, but I want to briefly just touch on that, Andrae, because I think sometimes when parents recognize that, okay, there's this adult issue, then there's my parent role. If we can put aside the adult issue, some of the behaviors that we see in our children, because we know that divorce has an impact on our children.
True.
But the way in which we decide to have that co-parenting relationship and whether we go down the healthy route, it's going to have a positive impact on our child, because our child is going to see two mature adults that are able to maintain the peace for the sake of me, right? For the sake of the fact that you love me, I'm the most important thing, and that is never going to change. That's the message that a child should always see. Our family looks differently. Yeah,
Yes.
it does. We're no longer a nuclear family. I may, as a co-parent, venture off once. And we haven't touched about new relationships, but I know the program covers that also. But, whenever that time does come, then we'll explore those things. But it's really about family changing and what can we do to make sure that our children are not negatively impacted. What are some impacts that divorce has on children, briefly?
All right. One of the ones that comes to mind immediately is the parental loss that happens with divorce or separation. And by parental loss, it means that the child he or she doesn't have access, the full 24/7 access to one parent or the other as they used to when they're living together.
Right.
When the parents are living together in the same home, then the child goes to bed and mommy and daddy are there. The child wakes up, they're there on the weekends, they're there. They might go to church together, they might go to Kamana Bay, wherever they go to the beach, they're there together, right? When the separation takes place, one parent moves out of the house, so let's use that situation, then the child is now sharing between mom and dad. There is what is called parental loss in that regard. The parent is still present and in their life, but it is different in some regard. You look on a thing like economic loss. In
these times,
we're
going through an economic recession.
Like economic loss is another thing where within the household living together, parents are able to pool those resources. When that separation takes place, we're looking at separate homes with the parents having separate responsibilities. They have to be adulting. So they might be having a separate mortgage or maybe paying rent. You're looking at the cost of living overall, electricity and the water and the food and the transportation. Like all that economic
that you used to share
is now
yours.
Separate. So even where there is a child support being given or some sort of maintenance within that parent relationship, it's clearly not enough as it would have been without the separation. Good? Because now whatever it has to be shared between both households. We look at more life stress as one of those things for children, because children too do experience stress. When there is a changing of school, because the parents are separated and they may move from one district to another. They change school, so they have to get a whole new set of friends. Or when they are no longer in contact with one part of the family. Because mommy and daddy are no longer together, so mommy's parents or daddy's parents are somewhat distant from the relationship. They don't see them as much. The relationship is not there. They might have had a cousin or a friend on that side of the family, and they're no longer interacting with this person as much. It might be stress on them. It could be a situation where the dog is gone, so the separation take place and either the mother or the father took the dog with them, and
you don't have that anymore.
And parents often don't recognize that these things are things that might impact on a child. Another impact might be not having the outlet to speak about the situation, so it results in grades being affected in school or behavior being affected in school because mommy and daddy are having conflict. They're not even present anymore. Daddy's living somewhere else. Mommy's always busy doing two jobs to take care of us. They're always fighting. What can I do? I'm in the middle, I'm stuck, and my parents are fighting. They fight over monies. And that has been one of the big issues. Persons fight over money, and children feel as though they begin to internalize this, to think that I am the cause of the conflict. Because if my parents are fighting, clearly they're only fighting over me or things in relation to me, then I'm the problem. Because without me, mommy and daddy would not be fighting. And parents will say it. If it wasn't for this child, then I would have nothing to do with her. Or if it wasn't for the child, I'd have nothing to do with him.
And that's so
truth.
damaging.
It is damaging because children might begin to internalize this as they are the problem. It's me. I'm the cost of it.
And that's such a slippery slope, Andrae, because then you, like you said, internalizing behaviors, you could start seeing symptoms of depression, anxiety in a child. You could start seeing, eating disorders potentially developing, academic loss and whatnot.
And they lose interest in certain things, or they don't care, or they might develop attention-seeking behavior.
Right.
Because
think about your teenager folks, those teenagers that are already going through a lot developmentally and not being able to be child-centered in a co-parenting relationship. They then become at risk. Right?
Further at risk. Yes.
And even greater as a teenager. You're talking about hanging out with the wrong crowd, engaging in substance use or substance abuse
or any
to cope, behavior. Any of those kind of like antisocial behaviors. So we have a huge responsibility, and we all know that as parents. And the segment, obviously, this parenting segment is called Rethink Parenting, because how do we move forward with rethinking our role, right? Relationships fail. It happens, right? And so what today's focus was on, how can we become better co-parents and rethink our relationship now? Our intimate relationship has dissolved. It has ended. We need to grieve that. And we also, though, need to recognize there's a parental responsibility. So for those that are listening, we've got 3 more minutes to go. For those that are listening, Andrae, what would be one major piece of advice as co-parents that you'd like to give them?
The major advice to parents, to think about yourself. And in doing that, think about how being the best you will result in the best situation for your child. And we often say to parents, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Wow. Parents, wait, can you say that again, Andrae? That is so powerful. Because a lot of us walk around empty.
Yes.
Our cups are depleted. And our parents, Andrae went through kind of like a day-to-day, especially when you're a single co-parent where everything is on you, right? You're walking around, you're doing all of these things, and you're feeling empty, right? You're feeling as though, how I am drained. How can I keep going? But you keep going, right?
You keep going.
Exactly. But Andrae has just mentioned something very powerful. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Right. So even if you keep going, you're not doing it to the best of yourself, because you find yourself irritable, right? You may not be performing to your best at work. Your relationship socially might not be at, the quality of it isn't that great because you don't have the energy to go out or whatever the case may be. So even though you may think that you're winning in some areas, the wholesome self that makes up so many different pieces of needs is not fully completed.
Correct.
Right? And so it's so important to hear that. And Andre's full of grace today. So, the whole, just everything that he said, there's a lot of empathy being sprinkled in everything. I really, truly appreciate that, Andrae. So listeners, for everything that you've heard today, we have a new co-parenting program that's starting out on the 6th of October. Our co-parenting program runs from 6 to 8 o'clock. It is an investment in your family. Look at it that way. I guarantee you that you'll start coming. It is a 8-week program or 10?
Right. It's 8 weeks. So we do 5 weeks, then we break for 2 for the telephone consultation, and then we come back for the celebration.
So start off with 5 weeks and take it 1 week at a time. I know it's out of your, kind of like day-to-day routine, but look at it as a Thursday night where you're investing in your family. And you'll hear from Mr. Andrae himself, who will be leading the group with one of our other parenting practitioners. So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Charmaine Miller, and I've had the privilege of being joined by our parenting practitioner, Mr. Andrae Bailey. For more information, please call 949-0006 or contact frc@gov.ky if you want to learn more about the co-parenting program that we've talked about today or additional programs offered at the Family Resource Center. We are here building people, building families. Thank you.
The Family Resource Center invite you to join us Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM for our weekly show called Rethink Parenting, where we share practical and positive parenting information to support happy, healthy family life. We'll share how to handle day-to-day issues. We'll address common challenges with parenting, such as how to manage misbehavior, supporting our teens through growing up, managing co-parenting dynamics, and how to take care of ourselves and manage our own stressors. Family Resource Center, committed to building people, building families. Tune in Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM. Find us at frc.gov.ky or call us on 949-0006. Submit your questions and concerns regarding parenting to us, and we'll share them on air. Join us Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. for our weekly show called Rethink Parenting.